Good evening, everyone, and welcome councillors, officers and members in the public that have arrived here this evening and those who are online to this special council meeting. I declare this meeting open at 6:04. My name is Councillor Julie Williams. I'm the Mayor of Darebin City Council and I'm also the chairperson for tonight's meeting. This meeting is to deal with undisposed agenda items from the council meeting that was held last Monday on the 22nd of May and an item which the CEO was given notice for accordance with our governance rules. So this meeting is being live streamed and a recording will be made available on the council website as soon as practical after the meeting. I would like to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri, the Wurrung people, the traditional owners of this land, and pay my respects to elders past and present and recognise their continuing connection to the land, water and culture. Before we commence, I would like to introduce you to councillors and staff who are here this evening. I have myself as Councillor Julie Williams. I have Councillor Suzanne Newton, who is our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Emily Demetriadis, Councillor Tom Hannon, Councillor Tim Lawrence, Councillor Trent McCarthy, Councillor Lena Messina and Councillor Susan Rennie. I have Councillor Greco, which I know he will pop in when he gets connection, and he is connecting online. In regards to our officers this evening in attendance, I have Peter Smith, our CEO. I have Jodie Watson, Sam Hewlett, Vicky, Rachel and Jacinta. So let's go on away. I do not have any apologies this evening. I will like to ask, do we have any conflicts of interest to our officers or to our councillors? Councillor Tom Hannon.
Thank you, Mayor. As I noted at the last meeting, I expect there will be an item of urgent business which has relation to Energy Safe Victoria, which is related to my employment. So I'll declare a conflict there and be absent for that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hannon. If there are no further conflicts of interest, I'll move on to Council has an obligation in health and safety responsibility to ensure everyone is attending tonight's meeting in person or online feels safe both physically and emotionally. I will go straight over to consideration of reports, and our first report this evening is the Municipal Monitor Report and the directions from the Minister for Local Government. Councillors, do I have any questions to our officers in reference to this before we begin our debate? If not, I will ask for a mover, please. Councillor Newton, and do I have a seconder? Councillor McCarthy. Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Newton.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. A little bit nervous speaking about this item because I think it's one that's really serious and one that council laws really need to take the recommendations on board and really act differently to how we have. I reread the report today in preparation for this meeting and I think that John's observations are true. And I think each one of the 9 of us has a lot to learn from this report. For me personally, I can stand here hand on heart and say that I've never criticised a staff member in public. I would never do that. But I will also say that I've stayed silent when I have seen criticism of staff from other councillors. And my commitment to the staff and the community is that I will stand up for you if I witness that behaviour in future. And I say that publicly and on the record. I was also the victim of what John describes as a campaign of bullying of one councillor by members of the public using social media posts. That happened while I was pregnant, and there were councillors in this room that contributed to that. And you can do better. You can do better than that, and you can do better than that when there are councillors who have different health issues, and you have councillors, you have people thinking about running next year who say, what will I experience if I'm a councillor on Darebin City Council? So that is a lesson to all of you.
Thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
I'll reserve my right for the moment, Mayor.
Councillor Messina.
I just want to acknowledge the bravery from Councillor Newton. She says words that I was too afraid to say, so I just want to acknowledge her bravery. not only tonight but also during the period. I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you. Any other councillors would like to speak on this agenda item? Or else I'll go to Councillor McCarthy. As you reserved your rights to speak, you can kindly speak.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, first of all, I just support Councillor Newton's comments and also support and acknowledge the same comments made by Councillor Messina in recognising Councillor Newton's bravery in making those statements. I think it's really important that all councillors reflect on what the report says, but also what the report by the Municipal Monitor and also the following letter by the Minister for Local Government actually says, which is that it calls upon councillors, and I think not just in this chamber, but also across the entire sector, to take great heed at what the expectations are under the Code of Conduct and basically under workplace decency and workplace safety. So the biggest thing for me in this report, and I fully endorse the recommendations and also the recommendations of obviously of our council report, but also of the Municipal Monitor, is that we have had a culture, I think, in local government where the people that do the work, council officers, have to put up with a lot of things which are just beyond what is reasonable, and that is detailed in the Monitor's report. But also councillors are to a large extent volunteers and don't come into this chamber expecting to experience the kind of things that Councillor Newton referred to. Local government should be a place that is safe for people to work, to serve as elected members and to participate in many different ways. It should be a place that's inclusive and attractive for our diverse community to feel a place in it. And it's actually up to every single councillor and in fact the entire sector, including the state government I would say as well, to do their level best to make this that place that people want to come and serve in. I would just also note that there are some important recommendations made by the Monitor in relation to reform of Code of Conduct procedures and arbitration procedures, and I think it would be advantageous if those were implemented. Thank you.
Thank you. I just also like to say thank you to the Minister, as we have been outlined a number of things that we must address, but also in saying that there's a big difference between, as councillors, whether you are adding or diminishing the experience of being here, I think is really important. And also people who want to work but refuse to work with each other need to start looking at themselves and think about what are they trying to accomplish by being here. So if there are no more further speakers, I will now put that item to vote. All those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. And welcome, Councillor Greco. We're moving over to the next item, which is parking management operating procedures. Councillors, do I have any questions to our officers in reference to this item? If not, then I'm happy for us to commence the debate if there are no further questions. Do I have a mover on this item? In reference to the parking? Councillor Greco, you're the mover, and Councillor Rennie is a seconder. Councillor Greco? Councillor Greco, can I just ask you to hold for one moment? I know it's 52 seconds, but those who are watching online cannot hear you. So we're just checking our internet on this end and our sources. Apologies for this. Councillor Greco, just continue if that's okay, thank you. We're not sure if it's been fixed or not though. Thank you. Councillor Rennie, as you're the seconder for this item, and if for those live streaming who couldn't hear Gaetano Greco, I'm happy to give you a little bit of extra time, or any other councillor who would like to speak on this item, because I know how important that parking management has been for the City of Darebin. So, as I said, I'd be more than happy to give that little bit of extra time.
Mayor, I'm happy to reserve in the first instance, thanks.
No problem. Are there any other councillors that would like to speak on this item? Councillor Demetriadis, as I said, if you want to speak a little bit longer, I'm happy for that.
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to thank Councillor Greco for raising this issue, because there's been a lot of community concerns about how parking restrictions have been installed in our streets. For instance, in my residential street, we didn't have a say about whether we thought parking restrictions would be appropriate in our street. This was a few years ago. In fact, I remember just going out one morning and unexpectedly seeing a 1 hour parking sign outside our house. And I think that's really unfair for everyone in the community. So therefore, I'm very thankful that this new process will ensure that the community members are more involved in whether parking restrictions should be installed in their homes, or outside their homes rather. And through this new process, owners and residents are not only more involved in the consultation on whether parking restrictions should be installed, but they also become more informed about the process and any potential safety or access concerns regarding their streets. And I think that's really important, because sometimes we don't actually understand why something's happening, and like I said, in my instance, it just appeared shockingly in front of our home without any explanation. So I really am supporting this process, this new process, and thank you to the officers for working hard with us on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, Councillor Newton?
Thank you, Mayor Williams. I'm speaking against this item, and I will be voting against. So for me, I think it's worth remembering that this is something that was brought to us by council laws. It was not something that came from officers, and I don't support making parking changes like this without consulting the community. So we are not going through a process of community consultation for this item. We are just deciding it. So I think that the staff have done a pretty good job of working with what they've been brought by councillors. But as a principle, I do not support doing parking changes without community consultation. And we heard from, when this came to us the first time, the officer recommendation or what feedback from officers is that there wasn't an issue with the current process. So for me, I think the current process is absolutely fine. I think it's worth mentioning that with the 25% that are required or will be required to respond, what we have in the report is that it says that generally we have 10 to 20% of people respond to something like this. So the bar of 25% is already high. And I think that it is unnecessary, and I do not support doing this without going to the community to ask them what they think.
Okay, councillors, are there any further speakers? Councillor Hannan.
Thank you, Mayor. I also am speaking against this item. I think I have to say I think it's a great improvement on where we got to previously with this item. I'd like to thank the officers who've done a really great job in making this workable, I would say, and trying to address some of the really potentially negative impacts that I believe could have happened on where we previously were. Having said that, I still maintain that the current process is adequate, and it's actually preferable in my view. I just want to make it very clear that the current process is not to just put a sign in front of someone's house without any consultation. That does not happen these days in Darebin. It may have happened in the past. The current process is to consult with the community, hear their feedback and make a decision. And that's how it should be. While again, I could live with the option as presented there, but I do think there are limitations. One is the 4-hour period. I can think of instances where you may have extreme congestion within, say, a 1 or 2 hour period, for example, around schools at drop-off and pick-up time, or train stations at peak hours. And the other is a fairly tight definition of who gets consulted or who the immediately impacted people are. So it's the people living on the street. Whereas I've mentioned before, there may be workers coming to that street or patients for a doctor's facility, or parents for a kinder or school childcare who come from outside, and obviously they have a keen interest in what happens there. So I think it's too narrow, and I prefer things the way they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hannan. Any further speakers on this item? Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, Mayor Williams, I'd like to commend Councillor Greco and the officers who have been working on this framework to go forward. I'm still like the old system we had, which was just a straight 50% and actually residents having full control. But of course, we then went into a different style of consultation on parking, and in East Reservoir, in the dying days of a previous council, we had 23 car spaces removed from an area that is getting 4 units replacing single houses at a rapid rate. So we're looking at quadrupling our population of cars, and we gave up 23 spaces with minimal feedback because it was COVID, and then actually a minority of councillors imposing parking spaces removals that will never be coming back. And actually the whole area is congested because of overdevelopment. I'm talking about east of Cheddar Road. So this proposal doesn't take us back to the old votes. It's a more sophisticated model. It also has some sophisticated criteria for officers to make recommendations based on safety and other factors. It is similar to some models in cities near us, and obviously we have to monitor it and see how the feedback we get, but I think it goes a step to not making rash decisions about reduction of parking, but including the community in those decisions.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Any further speakers on this item? Councillor Rennie.
Thank you, Mayor Williams. I've seconded this because I think it's time we put this matter to rest. The debate has been, in my opinion, unnecessary, And I think that the settings we've had in the past have been completely adequate. So these changes, I believe, are also unnecessary. Having said that, this has gone on for long enough. In any change to parking, there are winners and losers, because more car parks for some means less for others. And I think we need to be really clear, if this goes ahead, who the losers are. Because when you make parking a popularity contest, you say that all votes are equal. And I don't actually believe that should be the case, because the accessibility needs of our community are not all equal, they're different. And if we have a share household with 4 fit adults, I don't believe that their vote should be the same as the household with a child in a wheelchair, or the household with older people who are frail and struggling to get their shopping in from their car if they have to park 50 metres down the road, or the parent who's got 3 children under 3 who's struggling to get them in the door safely. I believe our parking needs should be determined by need, the settings, and I don't think this does that in those cases where parking occupancy is less than 85%. However, we also know that there are a significant number of streets where safety is the primary concern, and in the interests of moving ahead and giving certainty to those people who are in streets where parking congestion is creating safety issues, I think they need the certainty that this will provide, which is to say we just need to get on and do it. So I've seconded this, notwithstanding my significant reservations, but I hope that councillors will actually think about this in the future and not pit people against each other, but actually think about who needs parking and how can we put an equity lens over what we do, because on that level, this policy is a huge fail.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. Councillor Greco, if there are no further speakers this evening, Councillor Greco, you do have a right of reply. We do still have a technical issue for those who are online watching, can't hear Councillor Greco, but I will allow Councillor Greco to actually speak because he does have a right of reply, and that's part of our governance rules. So Councillor Greco, over to you. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Greco, and apologies for those who are watching online that could not hear Councillor Greco then. I'm going to put that item to vote. All those in favour? I have Councillor Demetriadis, I have Councillor Lawrence, Councillor Messina, Councillor Greco, Councillor Williams. All those against. I have Councillor Hannan, Councillor Newton and Councillor Rennie abstaining. That item has been... Oh, Councillor McCarthy abstaining also. Thank you. And 2 abstaining. That item has been passed. Thank you. Councillor Greco, we're going to adjourn for a couple of minutes. The reason being because the next agenda item that you actually second, which is the governance report that we actually put aside from last meeting, the fact that we can't hear you online, so we're going to adjourn for a couple of minutes and you might have to actually disconnect and reconnect before we can dial back in again, if that's okay.
Mayor Williams, look, I would be happy not to be the seconder in order to allow the meeting to go through, and I'll be happy even not to speak on the item if that facilitates the meeting.
Okay, that would do. That would be great. Thank you, Councillor Greco. Then we'll continue on. So our next item that we have is the governance report, May 2023. Previously, we had Councillor Messina as the mover and Councillor Greco. Councillor Messina was the mover with an amendment, and I believe that...
I wish to withdraw that amendment, Mayor.
Yep. Okay, so you wish to withdraw. So would you still like to move the item?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the officer's recommendation.
Okay, so Councillor Messina will be moving their officer's recommendation. Councillor Greco, do you still want to be the seconder for that item, but you may not speak on it because we can't hear you?
Yeah, I'm happy to be the seconder, and I'll reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Okay, over to councillors. If you would like to ask any questions to our officers first before we go into the debate. If there are no questions, then I will actually ask Councillor Messina if she'd like to speak on the item.
Regular monthly meeting report, the governance report, and I just want to note there's a summary of councillor briefings and those who have attended, minutes of those briefings, minutes of those of the meetings, notes and reports by mayors and councillors, also a note regarding the Audit Risk Committee, and also want to acknowledge the virtual hearing of submissions committee meeting will be held on the Tuesday the 13th of June, and also in addition to that, we're moving the planning committee meeting on the 13th of June. Simply, that's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak on this item? If not, then I'm going to put that item to vote. All those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. Thank you. Before we move on to the next item, which is the Preston City Oval cricket nets, I believe that before we go to our councillors to ask our officers some questions, I do believe that we have 2 submitters this evening who would have 2 minutes to speak towards their verbal submission. I have Michael Hayes and David Smith, who would both like to give 2 minutes. So you are more than welcome to come up to the lectern and speak. Just state your name and your suburb.
Michael Hayes, Eltham. Good evening, councillors, Mayor, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Michael Hayes, President of the Preston City Club. Luckily enough, I had the honour of having an apprenticeship under the City of Darebin as a chippy. Preston City Club was established in 1860 and playing the second highest level of turf cricket in Victoria. We have near 80 members, seniors, juniors, teams for males, and hopefully in the future, with nets, we have females. With close to 60% under the age of 20, the club has quite a diversity of nationalities, ranging from 9 different countries. We have received gold rating for the past 4 years for the Darebin Council. The club is very community focused, having raised over 8,000 for women's charity groups in the past 5 years, cervical cancer, breast cancer, white ribbon, and is actively supporting council programs, including the Moss Project and the Reservoir Neighbourhood House. For over 10 years, we have run the best academy in the northern suburbs. Free coaching for boys and girls, ages 13, 15 and 19s. This year we have over 100 participants this year. This has cost the club over $100,000, which volunteers have had to find sponsors to raise the money. In the past 3 years, we've had our past players group, the 1860 Club, a charter primarily in the community with council and assisting the homeless. The proudest moment for me was when my best friend and the coach at the time felt safe enough in the environment that we created to openly express his sexuality to the playing group. Along with the Holy Trinity, we played in the first Pride Cup match. I can't express to you how important these nets are to our club. Cricket nets are essential for developing player skills and preparing for games. Most of all, it brings people together to do what we love, which is cricket. It would be like asking a basketballer to practice without a ring, without a tennis player to practice without a net, a football club to practice without goalposts.
Just to interrupt, do you have much more to speak on? Because I know you've gone a little
Sorry,
bit over time,
my
but that's
apologies.
okay.
We have an exceptionally strong, we have an exceptionally strong committee and tenacious playing group. However, we are tired and exhausted of training away from our home venue, the venue which we have been for over 100 years. We are tired of selling hope to our members. The question's always asked, how are the nets going? Where are they at? Unfortunately, we can't tell them much. It's pretty clear, was made pretty clear from council that we would have like for like, which was 5 nets. 3 turf, 2 synthetic. That is what we are wanting. Our values as a club is fun, family and fairness. The railway took away our nets. I believe that it's only fair that we get these nets back. 5 nets. I will not be satisfied with anything less, and our club deserves, with the amount of work we do in community, to get these nets back. My apologies for going over time. Much appreciated. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, David. Michael, sorry. I do have next is David Smith. Once again, David, can you kindly just state your name and your suburb?
David from Preston. As Darebin continues to grow, it's critical that we prioritise the provision and maintenance of open and accessible public amenities. These spaces are essential for fostering social cohesion, promotion of well-being and improving our overall quality of life. Preserving mature trees and canopies within these public areas is of utmost importance. These natural elements not only enhance the beauty of our surroundings, but also play a vital role in mitigating the urban heat island effect. By retaining mature trees, we create cooler microclimates, ensuring a more comfortable environment for all. Additionally, these trees provide habitats for a diverse range of animals and insects, supporting biodiversity and maintaining a balance of our ecosystem. In addition, it's vital to provide spaces with within these public amenities that allow people to rest and unwind. These areas serve as havens, offering individuals an opportunity to relax, recharge and connect with nature. By incorporating comfortable seating and shading areas, we can create inviting spaces that cater for the needs of our community members. We understand the importance of meeting the diverse needs of Darebin's residents and are committed to finding a suitable location for the training facilities of Preston Cricket Club that does not compromise the quality of public outdoor space. When it comes to the design of the cricket nets within our parks, we must consider various factors. Minimising the use of metal netting reduces the visual impact of the facilities while ensuring a safe space in accordance with Cricket Australia's guidelines for community facilities. Placing the cricket nets as far away from street corners as possible maximises the available public area and minimises potential hazards for pedestrians and drivers, creating a safer, more enjoyable environment for all. Through thoughtful design of cricket nets and engagement with affected residents of Darebin and key stakeholders, we believe we can achieve an equitable outcome, an outcome that provides accessibility to public amenities, preserves mature trees and canopies, and allows for provision of restful spaces while accommodating training facilities for the sporting community. By pursuing these measures, we can create a vibrant and sustainable community, mitigate heat island effects, support biodiversity, and enhance the overall livability of our environments. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time, David. Councillors, before we go into the debate, I'm just asking councillors that they can ask officers questions, but please keep in mind that if you have any questions that are relating to information that's contained within the confidential attachment, that we need to move into camera. So anything that might involve pricing or tender process will have to go into camera. So I believe Councillor Messina has a question, is that correct?
No, I was going to move an alternate to the officer's recommendation, Mayor.
Okay, we'll go to questions first, but then I'll come back to you, Councillor Messina. Councillor Demetriadis?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question for officers. The recommendation put forward by officers is option 2, which I believe is not exactly 5 nets, is that right? Is it 4 nets, and there's all synthetic? Is that correct? The recommendation?
Yes, through you, Mayor Williams. The option 2 is for synthetic nets.
For synthetic nets, right. So this recommendation that's put forward by officers, can we ensure that it will be completed before August, which is when the season starts?
Through you, Mayor Williams, no, I cannot guarantee that option 2 will be complete before August, September, which is when the season starts for 2023-24.
So I know this project should have already technically been completed, but when do we think that option 2 will be completed if it is voted on, which is the 4 synthetic nets?
So through you, Mayor Williams, officers will be doing their utmost to get option 2, should it be endorsed by council tonight, as quickly as possible. We would hope that we would have them in place by December at the latest, but I cannot make a guarantee around that. But based on our understanding of the construction sector, we think that we would be able to implement that by December, but no promises.
Through you, Mayor, I have another question. Can I ask how much money has already been spent on this project? Because I believe we've gone to tender, we've already done the designs for the 5 pitches, I think they are, which is the net 2 synthetic, was it 2 synthetic and 3 actual grass pitches?
Councillor Demetriadis, you need to ask the question.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yes. So I just wanted to know how much money has already been spent on this project that the club was promised.
Through you, Mayor Williams, I'm unable to answer that question this evening, but I can provide that information to you down the track. But I don't have that information to hand this evening.
And also it may involve going into camera. Are there any further questions to our officers? Because I do have a couple myself, but I'll let councillors ask their questions first. Councillor Newton?
Thank you, Mayor Williams. Could we get any sense of timeline in the difference between option 1 and option 2?
Through you, Mayor Williams. Option 1, we already have a tender underway. So we already have designs and we have tenderers. So that would, option 1 would be the fastest solution. But again, there are no guarantees as to the actual timing, but we already have all of those pieces of the puzzle, if you like, in place already. Option 2, we would need to redo our scoping and put that back out to the market to get quotes. We would also need to change the contract that we're looking for because we don't currently have a design for option 2. Does that answer your question? Sorry, Councillor Newton.
Yes, thank you very much.
Councillors, is there any further questions? Okay, I'd like to ask a question. It's in reference to option 1 as opposed to option 2. How many trees will be removed between the 2? Well, not as a whole, but obviously if you go into option 1, I believe that it will have to remove quite a number of trees, if not all the trees, as opposed to option 2, there will be a lot of trees that will be protected, including the maturity of those trees.
So to you, Mayor Williams. So under option 1, there are 30 trees that would need to be removed from the corner of Mary and Bruce Street, which is the area where we are recommending the cricket nets are built. So that's 30, which is 1 high-value tree and 29 medium to low trees. Under option 2, we haven't quantified the number of trees that would need to be removed, but there would certainly be less trees removed under option 2. As I think we've stated in the report, the high-value tree needs to be removed under both of the options. That actually can't be saved under any of the options in the southeast corner. And there is another medium value tree that would also need to be removed, but that actually would need to be removed in both option 1 and option 2.
Thank you. And through you, the CEO, I'd like to ask the question about obviously the financial differences and impacting our long-term financial plan. Can you shed some light in reference to that? Because there would be quite a significant difference without expressing pricing or anything like that. But obviously my point is that there's budget, but there's also other ramifications that it could impact down the track.
Thank you for the question, Mayor. It's hard to talk about money without talking about quantum, but option 1 is certainly more expensive than option 2. You're getting more service. Option 2, either option will require additional money to be put into the plan at final budget in June. The quantum for option 2 would be less, and because we're going through a market process, we won't know that until we get the prices back in terms of the quantum of that, but it'll be less than option 1. And there's a option in the adjustment of the long-term financial plan to potentially use some other money for this project, and then as we get money free during the year, bring forward funding of the other project that might be deferred that we've briefed council on. So we won't know until budget night the actual cost, and the reason we're wanting the decision tonight is so that we can go back to the proponents in the first process and ask them for a new price, which we'll know before final budget night. But option 2 is cheaper than option 1 and more manageable in the long-term financial plan. And
in reference to option 1 and option 2, even though there's a slight difference between the amount of nets, but also the amount of trees that will be taken away, so you'll be adding more nets but taking more trees away. The time frame in getting all this up and running, is there much difference between option 1 and option 2? Will they be up and running for our club who have been really quite impacted on this, particularly the last few years? And we would like to have them up and running as soon as possible, but time-wise, would option 1 make them there quicker, September, or option 2, will they be there September? Is there going to be much difference between option 1 and option 2 for the cricket club to be up and running back at their home ground that's been going since 1860?
So to you. As I stated, we already have our tender in place. We're working through the tender for option 1 now, so that is definitely the fastest way to get cricket nets, but also mindful that this is council's decision. We will be working to get both of them in place as quickly as we possibly can, but there are no guarantees. I'm really sorry, but I can't control the construction industry. So option 1 is definitely faster, but there's a number of factors that council need to consider.
I just don't understand how can it be faster when we don't even know the timeframes of how long it's going to take to complete. Like, did the tender say that, yep, guarantee that it'll be up and running by September?
Just trying to find a way to answer that without breaching probity.
Yeah, because
if I can assist, Mayor, I think option 2, because we're redesigning, so in option 1 we've done the design and gone out to tender and we've got a price on construction. Option 2 is going to take longer because even though we're using the same market process, we're then asking the proponents to design and construct. So there will be a period of design. If there's further requirements to do engagement and everything else around that design, that extends the time frame. Well, normally in design construction, you give the scope of the project. The proponent, Mr. Hewitt can help me, would then design it and construct. And that design stage is going to add time.
Yeah, because I thought our officer mentioned earlier that we could have it up and we'll have it all back by budget. And how can we going forward doing option 1 if we have an endorsed budget? So how can we now start an option 1 if it hasn't been endorsed yet regarding budget? Do you know what I'm saying? And like my point is that we can have both options 1 and 2 ready for budget. Is that correct?
Through you, Mayor. It's open to the council to award a contract for option 1. You could do that tonight. The tender validity period for that tender closes before the budget. So you would need to make a decision on that. In the event that you want to consider option 2 and you want to consider it by budget night, you will need to give officers direction today. Our plan would be, broadly, that we would go back to the proponents, as the CEO has mentioned, by Friday of this week. We would have the tender open for about almost 3 weeks. It would close the Wednesday before the budget night, about the 23rd or something, whatever the Wednesday is. Officers would do their best to evaluate those tenders by the Friday and provide you advice on the Friday, perhaps through the CEO, to assist you for your meeting on the Monday. Can I just make a point about the construction? There was a bit of discussion. Option 2, the construction methodology is simpler. There's fewer things to do with option 2. But there's a process to get to shovel ready, which is going to take some time. So it's simpler to put a shovel in the ground tomorrow with option 1. It's a quicker construction because of the methodology for option 2. I'm not trying to be complex or confusing here, but ultimately they're both about the same time, given the work we now need to do to reprice.
Thank you, appreciate that. Councillors, are there any further questions?
Yeah,
Councillor sorry, Councillor Greco, yes, sorry.
I think Mr. Hewitt has just given us some really key information.
Through you, Mayor Williams, that is correct, but I would highlight the risk with our current tender proponents that there is a risk that they may not reply and we may not get costs back from them, and then we would need to do a full market tender to the sector.
But going to market sector, that'd be just the same process as what?
We would need to do that after. So what we are proposing is that we go back to our current tender proponents to get a price for option 2. If no one from that pool provides us with a response, then we will need to go to an open market tender.
Okay, that's if there's no response that they would like to do a quote. Okay, thank you. Councillor Messina. Oh, sorry, Councillor Demetriadis. And
Okay, my question through you, Mayor Williams, is, that's just giving me a blank. Oh, goodness me. Oh, God. Oh. Is it rare for a sporting project to go to tender and having nobody apply for it or submit any tenders? I would like to know the probability of that, please.
Through you, Mayor, it's pretty low, but a reminder that we've already asked the market to price. It's expensive for tenderers to price. They don't like pricing jobs that they're never going to win. So we're going to ask them again to price again. So there's a cost associated with contractors pricing twice.
Councillor Demetriadis?
I wanted to ask about, I noticed that option 1 has a tree replacement plan, which was decided by the arborist. And given it went to tender, were the officers happy with that replacement plan? Because I think it replaced the trees that were going to be removed for option 1 with 70 other plants. Is that correct? And then, so were officers happy with that proposal from the arborist? Is that why it went to tender?
Through you, Mayor Williams, the arborist is actually a council arborist, so in fact they had proposed that. So from an officer perspective, replacing 30 trees with 70 was deemed a appropriate mitigation for the loss of those trees.
Councillor Messina?
Just want to ask any other options, option 2, if council endorsed option 2, is 70 trees an option also for that site?
Through you, Mayor Williams, yes. We would be working with the council arborist and appropriate teams to come up with a tree replacement plan for option 2.
Now, these are trees, not just shrubs, correct? Sorry, I don't. To me, they're two different things, but people are going, well, you know.
Trees.
Well, they're trees.
Any other councillors? Councillor Messina. And do I have a seconder?
No,
we don't know what option first, so we'll go with your option, which one you want.
Option 2, I have circulated it, item, is it 10? So I have circulated an, yep.
Councillors, it's up on our screen for option 2, which is the officer's recommendation.
That's it.
Councillors, do we have a seconder for this item? Councillor Rennie? Thank you. Councillor Messina, would you like to speak on this item?
Thank you, Mayor. Bell Station was identified as a dangerous level crossing for the Big Build project. This initial plan was for the Bell level crossing was for an underpass. Darebin City Council undertook a feasibility study that would see the removal of 4 level crossings. What we have gained is the equivalent of 3 MCG car parks, open space that was not there prior. Personally, I'm a lover of cricket and I grew up watching the West Indies on my father's knee in the 70s. I want to acknowledge the Preston Cricket Club has a long history in Preston. I source 1860. The land was acquired by Jika Shire Council, led by its president, J.C. Clinch, in 1876 for £180. Originally named Preston Park and then the Kramer Street Oval, now Preston City Oval. I want to acknowledge the Preston City Cricket Club for their commitment to the vulnerable community members in Darebin. I want to acknowledge the open space for that precinct now, and I want to firstly deeply apologise to the Preston Cricket Club, the committee and the players for the long drawn-out process. The process has facilitated anxiety, stress and loss of monetary value. It's disappointing. In an ideal world, we will place the cricket nets for like in that location. We were promised by the LXRP a replacement with no further ratepayers' contribution, and this is not reality. Secondly, I want to thank the signatories of the petition. What I can't do is wave a magic wand and deliver the nets in the next few months. It's important that the residents are also involved in the process. However, the reason we are in this situation is because the failure of the scoping and the design of the LXRP. I want to thank David Smith and Michael Hayes for their passionate submission.
Sorry, point of order. I just wanted to get some clarity. Well,
Can you kindly stand,
sorry.
please, and what's your point of order?
Yes, 10.1 G. It's whether it's misleading and a false statement. I don't believe that we're in this situation because of LXRP's plan. I believe it's because council quoted a lesser amount than what it's actually going to cost to have the.
That's actually-
Thank you, Councillor
Is that
Demetriadis.
correct? I believe that was what.
I'll get
what-
clarification from our officers. Thank you. You're both correct in ways that there was, I guess, communication with LXRP, and there were different amounts that were given and different amounts that were actually circulated. I'm not going to go into the debate
Sorry,
about
if I
this.
may, Mayor, it's not about the monetary value, it's also about the location.
Yep, and that's why I'm asking for this. I'm not going to go any further on this point of order, and I'm going to ask you to continue, Councillor Messina, so thank you.
Thank you. This amendment, what I'm hoping will bring all stakeholders to obtain a win-win solution, not only for the residents, but also for the cricket club. It is not ideal, I know that, but this is a win-win where we all can have a collaboration between the community and the cricket club, a long-standing cricket club. And I understand there's been several meetings between Richard, I want to acknowledge Richard, and also David to come to this solution.
Councillor Newton?
Thank you, Mayor Williams. I'd like to propose an amendment.
I'm just going to go to Councillor Rennie to see if she would like to speak first.
I'll reserve.
You're reserving. Okay. Councillor Newton?
Thank you, Mayor Williams. So I've just circulated it. So what I would like to do with this alternative motion is I would like to remove the current point 8 and replace it with the words endorse option 1, construct like-for-like cricket nets with 2 synthetic and 6 turf pitches.
We'll just get our officers a moment to put that up.
Through you, Mayor, can I just clarify? Option 1, the design is already done. So you're still wanting the engagement session given the design is already done? I think if the design's already done and we're going to go to option 1,
Yep.
I wonder what the value of is
Sure.
doing a design session with stakeholders.
Yep. Then it would also be to remove item 10.
Do I have a seconder for your Councillor Demetriadis? And, sorry, is it acceptable by the mover and
No.
the seconder?
No.
No? And now I need a seconder, which is Councillor Demetriadis. Councillor Newton?
Thank you, Mayor Williams. So I do understand that the officer recommendation is for option 2, but I feel quite strongly that the best option for us is option 1. So I think what we have here is a situation where, unfortunately, the LXRP has not been able to deliver on what they've promised. So council has to step in. This is a club that is basically our neighbours. They're just down the road. They've been here since 1860. I know they do a lot of good work with. There is people with experience of homelessness that do congregate near Preston City Oval, and I think it is our responsibility to get this sorted as soon as possible. I think the club has been waiting patiently for a long time with this issue, and I think we do have an option on the table here that allows us to move forward very, very quickly because we already have the designs. We are ready to go with 2 synthetic and 6 turf pitches, and it would deliver a like-for-like solution, which is what the club is after. I acknowledge that the submitter talked about the trees, but unfortunately the significant tree will be removed in option 1 or option 2, and I do believe that there is an option that's pretty good for replacing the trees along the corridor. And I think it's worth mentioning that the context of this area is that we have just, what's the right word? We now have 2 extra MCGs worth of open space right next door on the Bell and Preston level crossing removal. So I think we need to support the club. I really, really get the sense of their distress with how long this is taking, and I think the best option for us is to find the money to do like for like, 2 synthetic and 6 turf pitches. We're ready to go.
Okay, I just need to ask the question to our officers. Apparently we cannot endorse the confidential recommendation in Appendix C for number 11, and I'll ask our CEO to explain why.
The confidential recommendation in Appendix C refers to option 2, so I just need to get words, Councillor Newton, through you, Mayor, just so we can. I think you can do. I'll just check, but it might be something like endorses and amends the confidential recommendation in Appendix C to reflect this motion.
Thank you.
I think that would probably do it, but if you it's contrary to what you're moving now if you endorse it as it is. So let me just get a few words through governance. Can I just get some help, please, Jody, on that? Or Jacinda? Can you help Georgie get the right words, please?
For those who are online, and Councillor Greco, we're just trying to get those amendments through to our officers for the point number 11, because that point number 11 actually exists for our recommendation number 2 at this point in time.
Can I ask a governance question, please? Weren't we supposed to deal with my amendment first and then Councillor Newton's has foreshadowed an alternate? So just want some clarity around that, please.
Through you, Mayor. So, Councillor Messina, you moved a motion that has been put forward, so it is currently the substantive motion. Councillor Newton has amended that motion and that needs to be dealt with first.
If the amendment fails to get up, then we go back to the original motion, which is yours, and the recommendation. Councillor Dimitriadis, would you like to speak on the item? You have a couple of minutes to speak on it if you
I'll
wish.
reserve my right. Can I reserve my right for now?
You can. I'll ask if there are any other officers, any other councillors would like to speak on this item. Councillor Rennie?
Thank you, Mayor Williams. I'm reluctantly standing to speak against the amendment, and I thank Councillor Newton for her passion and advocacy in putting it forward. I don't think any of us are happy to be here tonight having this debate because it's entirely unsatisfactory and it's completely a result of a failure of the LXRA project to deliver like for like, which was our expectation.
I'm sorry, point of order.
No, I'm not going to accept your point of order. No. Excuse me. It did start with the LXRP, and I'm going to not... This is not about where we've been in the past. This is going forward.
Well, maybe you should say that to the other councillors too.
Councillor Dimitriadis. Thank you. I apologise, Councillor Rennie.
Thank you. In an ideal world, the club would have their like-for-like nets fully funded by LXRA. I think there's some learnings for all of us, and I hope that we as council take those learnings forward into the future Keon Park level crossing removal project, and don't find ourselves once again in a position where a community club is effectively going to be shortchanged. The options before us are all less than ideal. If we proceed and support this amendment, then make no mistake, it's going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars more than we have in the budget, and that means that some other club will miss out. And I'm so sorry to the cricket club that we are in a position of having to think about your needs and weigh them up against the needs of other sporting clubs. It'll be a lighting project on another oval. It'll be the Gwern Street Bridge. It'll be the Migration Monument. Something else will have to come out if we proceed down this path. And that's why I'm not able to support this amendment this evening, and hope councillors will fall in behind option 2, which will deliver nets as quickly as possible and, all going well before the end of the year. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who would like to speak on this amendment? Councillor Messina?
In an ideal world, we shouldn't be here tonight, as Councillor Rennie has just stated. I don't want to have option 2. I would much prefer option 1, but we have no choice. We've just read the Monitor's report. We've just talked about how we have to be financially responsible. We have a fiduciary duty. We simply cannot afford option 1. Would I prefer option 1? Yes, but we cannot afford it.
Councillors, are there any other further speakers? If not, then you have a right to reply. Oh, no, you don't, because you have an alternative. I'm going to put that item to vote. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Councillor Dimitriadis?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm in support of this motion for a number of reasons. And firstly, I'm finding it really frustrating that we're sitting here blaming LXRP when this is a costing issues that we weren't informed about. This has nothing to do with this. We were asked about it, as you know. So what I want to say, this is not a win-win situation that we're in.
It's just the debate on the item that's in front of us.
Exactly. This is the item in front of us, and it's about the money that we potentially don't have to support option 1. This is not a win-win situation that we're currently in. In terms of the trees, we have option 1 has a clear tree replacement plan. That means that officers have endorsed this and said that they are happy to replace whatever trees need to be removed with 70 other trees. Option 2 does not have a tree replacement plan at this stage. That means we could be technically even removing more.
No, I'm not going to accept point of order. I'm just going to ask Councillor Dimitriadis to finish up If she could kindly finish up, and I'm going to have this item put to vote.
So, as the CEO said, both options require money in the budget now, and we don't know the price of option 2. So, we have already lost money on option 1. This project should have been finished. We need to get on with the job and actually give the 5 pitches that were promised to the club. If we vote option 2, we are failing the cricket club. Preston Cricket Club is not being supported by option 2. They get 4 synthetic pitches. That is not what they were promised.
Okay, Councillor Demetriadis, I think you need to be mindful on how you're addressing the club or councillors in reference to making this decision.
I'm sorry, I'm talking about option 2. It does not address, we've heard that the club wants 5 pitches. Option 2 only supports 4 synthetic pitches. And we don't have a costing on that. For all we know, it's so uncertain that it could come back even more than what option 1 currently is. Option 1 is the fastest, it's the most accurate thing that we can put in the budget at this stage. So I'm in support of option 1, and I think option 2 has no certainty, so we need to be supporting option 1 for the club.
Thank you. If there are no further speakers, I'm going to put that item to vote. Any further speakers? Okay, councillors, we're voting on the amendment that's up on the screen. All those in favour for the item? I have Councillor Demetriadis, I have Councillor Newton and Councillor Lawrence. All those against? I have Councillor Hannan, Councillor Rennie, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Messina, Councillor Greco and Councillor Williams. That item has been lost. We'll go back to the original recommendation that was moved by Councillor Messina. Can we have that up on the screen? Thank you. Thank you. So we had Councillor Messina and Councillor Rennie reserved her rights as a seconder. Do we have any other further speakers on this item that's up on the screen? Councillor Demetriadis? Oh, and Councillor Greco, I apologise. I'll go to Councillor Demetriadis first and then we'll go to Councillor Greco.
Thank you, Mayor. While option 1 has failed and now we're on option 2, which I believe is a fail for the club, in terms of councillors failed the club with this particular option, including option 10 here to have a stakeholder session just makes the whole process even longer. Not only that, it actually costs the council a lot more because it means staff time to actually organise the session.
Councillor Demetriadis, you're making assumptions in reference to that, considering we had discussions earlier regarding what a stakeholder session was going to take.
Sorry, Mayor, can I just clarify? Apparently, option 1, we actually go straight into installing the cricket nets. Option 2...
Doesn't mean the stakeholder session was going to delay.
Can I get clarity
2.
on that from an officer, please?
We did earlier today, so I'm moving on. So thank you very much, Councillor Demetriadis, if you want to keep continuing speaking. If not, then I'll ask another person to speak.
Well, I'm sorry, I believe that the stakeholder session will, in any event, it'll add an evening for officers to attend, which will increase costs as well. So while I will be supporting this motion because the other one failed and we do need to do something for the club, I think we're just delaying this and it's just extra time that we're wasting in providing something that's not even certain for the club. This is not certainty. Going back to the drawing board to rescope a project is not certainty for the club. So I'll be supporting it because at least we're doing something, but I'm just disappointed. So thank you.
We're all extremely disappointed and we're all in a very difficult situation, and I think if anybody is more disappointed, it would happen to be the club themselves. And I apologise for the way it's played out this evening because it's not the way that we as councillors would like to be put in such a position. I don't normally speak on items, but we are in a very, very difficult situation from a financial, from an emotional, but also we need to honour what our minister has asked us to do. And that is in reference to making sure that we adhere by what we need to do and making sure that our budget is kept within reason. We can't go over. So if we impact one club, we will have to impact another club that we've already made promises to also. I'm going to go to Councillor Greco Councillor Greco, I allow you to speak. Thank you. Councillor Greco, can you kindly resend that? Because I believe councillors are saying that they haven't seen it. Councillor Greco, the fact that there might be an internet issue, can you kindly read out what your amendment is so maybe our officers can type it up on this end just to save some time? Oh, okay. Thank you. I believe our officers now received it. Councillor Greco, just to be mindful, even though that you're trying to move an amendment, that others cannot hear you online due to our technical issue that we're having on this end.
Mayor, would you like me to read the amendment?
We have the amendment, but even if Councillor Greco speaks, nobody's going to be able to hear him except for us. So I am considering if we can adjourn for maybe 5 minutes, I think is really important. Maybe we can do a reset in reference to the technical issues that we're having at hand at the moment. I'm actually going to allow 10 minutes, 9 minutes. Let's say we'll try to resume back here at 7:30. Is that okay, Councillor Greco? I'm going to ask you to log out and log back in, Councillor Greco. Yep, I think that's important. We need to give it a go. Thank you. When in doubt, reset. Councillors, can you kindly please sit down because we're going to resume the meeting as we've gone way over time. Councillor Greco's technical issues are still continuing, so those who are online will not be able to hear Councillor Greco. So I've asked our officers if you can kindly resume to live streaming. We are, thank you. Okay, so where we're at, we have Councillor Greco who was considering doing that amendment. Is that up and running now for that amendment? Can we have that up on the screen? And then Councillor Greco, can you kindly confirm if that's your amendment?
Thank you. As the seconder, I'm happy to accept that.
Okay, so I have the seconder who's happy to that. The mover is Councillor Messina. Are you happy,
I'm happy
to
accept that, yep.
Okay, no problem. As now that has been accepted, thank you, Councillor Greco. Do I have any further speakers on this item? I have Councillor Rennie.
Thank you. I've already said that this is a disappointing situation to find ourselves in, but we've also heard that the staff are able to move this along very, very rapidly. So they've outlined some timelines which would see this project be awarded in record time through a more rapid process than we normally see, and hopefully that will allow us to build these nets very, very quickly, and certainly before the end of the year would be our hope, and every so often something goes smoothly and it happens even more quickly. The time difference, therefore, between this and option one is not enormous. I don't want to discount the value to the club of a month or two, but that possibly is what we're talking about given the more complex build involved in option one, which council has decided not to proceed with through its rejection of the last amendment. I hope that council will consider in future years and that the club will continue to hold us to account for what you need to be a successful club in terms of a stage two. We are operating in a very tight financial situation, but from time to time additional money becomes available and grants become available through state and federal government. So, you know, if this is stage one and at some point in the future the club is able to get turf nets, then, you know, that would be an ideal scenario, and I think I share the concern with all of my colleagues that this has not been an easy process for you, and we apologise for that and look forward to continuing to work with you and seeing these nets built as quickly as possible.
If there are no further questions, another amendment. I'm actually going to put this item to vote first. If it fails, then you can have your amendment be put up. You can't speak on it. You have, no, I have Councillor Messina who's moved, she's spoken. You have spoken. I have spoken. No, you spoke on the original, and Councillor Rennie has now just spoken. I've just received governance.
Just check with governance.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Councillor Demetriadis has spoken twice.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence?
Yes, Mayor Williams, happy to speak on this item. Yeah, I was disappointed that we didn't go the full way of replacing what's been taken. I think that this at least puts it in the budget sphere to have a look at. It's kind of doing 2/3 of the job, which is certainly better than the $61 million worth of capital works that will be foregone in the next 3 budgets in this council, which will be missing stadiums, missing pathways, missing bridges, which are already missing. I don't think we should be really curlish and play sky rail politics here. State government brought $750 million of crossings here, and our situation is entirely created by ourselves, and we really should have the extra money to do this. So the blame game's a bit childish, but at least we're getting 2/3 put to the budget. Again, this still has to come back to the full budget, and there's obviously extra details, and there'll be plenty of time for more plain talking.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. If there are no further people who'd like to speak, councillors would like to speak on this item, then I'll put this to... No, I'm going to have this put to vote. You've already spoken for this? No. I've asked for this item to be put to vote. I am the chairperson and I've asked this item to be put to vote. So all those in favour, thank you. All those in favour? I have Councillor Hannan, Councillor Rennie, Councillor Newton, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Lawrence, Councillor Messina, Councillor Greco, I can't see you on the screen, and Councillor Williams, myself. I've got Councillor online. Councillor Greco, would you like to vote for this item?
It's his item. Is it the same item that we were talking about before?
Yes, it's the same item we were talking about before. We just put it to vote. Do I have your vote on that item?
He can't
Has
vote.
my amendment been included in the
He can't vote unless we can see him on the
Your item has been included. Because we can't physically see you, you don't need to vote on the item, but your item has been included in the amendment into the original recommendation.
Okay, I'm happy to then support the motion.
Okay,
By inclusion.
thank you. So then that item is now being carried. Thank you very much. And I will ask all those against. Those who are abstaining, Councillor Demetriadis abstains. Thank you.
I believe Councillor Greco needs to be on screen to vote.
That's correct.
So have we seen him?
He doesn't have a vote recording.
Councillors, we'll move on to the next item, which is urgent business. I believe that there is one item for urgent business from Councillor McCarthy this evening. So, Councillor McCarthy, do you wish to move the procedural motion that this matter would like to be admitted into your urgent business into the agenda this evening?
Thanks, Mayor. I'd like to move that procedural item, please.
No worries, thank you. I'll just wait for the cricket guys to leave, and thank you very much for all your time coming this evening. Appreciate it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hannan?
No, Mayor, sorry, I'm going to make myself absent for this item as
Okay,
before.
yes,
Thank you.
correct, okay. Thank you. I'll ask you to leave the chamber. Do I have a seconder for this item? Councillor Rennie? Yep.
I've got a question to officers.
So is it in reference to being a procedural motion? Councillor Hannan, no, that's no problem, thank you. Not you, I was addressing it to another councillor. Did you have a question in reference to the procedural motion?
No, it's in regards to the actual motion.
Okay, we'll get this into the agenda first, and then we can have that question time. So, councillors, I'm going to ask for that item to be put to vote. All those, the seconder was Councillor Rennie, and I'll ask that item to be put to vote for the procedural item. So this urgent item will now be added to our agenda. All those in favour? That has been carried unanimously. Thank you. So, councillors, we have now the item up on the screen. I believe Councillor McCarthy is the mover, and I probably have a seconder, Councillor Rennie, and I have Councillor Demetriadis who has a question in reference to that. Oh. Yeah, I apologise, Councillor Demetriadis, but Councillor Rennie had her hand up all that time where I thought you were asking a question, which you had before. Do you still have a question or not?
Yes, I do have a question. I just wanted to ask, has Council written to Energy Safe Victoria to lobby for changes to the regulations to ask for an exemption for the trees on Gladstone Park? And if so, what was the outcome?
Our officers, thank you. Over to you, Sam. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor. Yeah, more than once we've written to Energy Safe Victoria and it's been silent, so it hasn't responded to us at all. So we've followed up with phone calls as well, so it hasn't responded to us.
Did that answer your question, Councillor Demetriadis? Thank you. Are there any other questions to councillors we'd like to ask our officers in reference to this urgent item that's come this evening? If not, then I'll go over to you, Councillor McCarthy. As you're the mover, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks very much, Mayor. And thank you to all councillors for admitting this onto the agenda, and also I'll also acknowledge the contribution of other councillors, including Councillor Demetriadis, who provided me with some support on some words up there as well. So very grateful for the collaborative approach in relation to this item. Councillors, as we just heard, and thank you also for the answer to that question from our officer, Council has made repeated attempts to seek an exemption in relation to significant trees that are located in Gladstone Avenue, Northcote, that currently, based on an Energy Safe Victoria audit, would have to be removed as per that audit finding. The particular measurement and the particular set of code and regulations that Energy Safe Victoria has referred to in its indication that these trees should be removed is based on effectively what are bushfire management regulations that I believe well suited to bushfire zones, but Gladstone Avenue, Northcote is not a bushfire zone. It's well and truly outside of the bushfire zone, and yet that is the application of the rule that has been applied across the state, including in inappropriate areas such as in parts of Darebin. I can understand that there are probably parts of Darebin where we do actually have a high propensity for bushfire, but not in Gladstone Avenue, Northcote. And this is what I would describe as a heavy-handed regulatory environment, when in fact there is room for exemption in urban areas such as in these streets in Darebin. Should Council not comply with the audit requirement from Energy Safe Victoria, Council faces significant fines, fines in the thousands and potentially escalating to the millions. It is an unacceptable situation that we have seen not just in this street, but in streets across Darebin and across Melbourne. We are not alone as a council in being concerned about the wording of the regulations and the impact that they've had on street canopy and tree canopy in particular. These particular issues are, I know, matters dear to the hearts of all councillors. We have a strong and I think well-rounded target for increasing our tree canopy, and I acknowledge Councillor Lawrence's work in the previous term of council about pushing for an even higher canopy than we previously had. So I would say that this is something which this council has been strong on consistently for many years. What this item requests is for a report to come back to us at our next meeting in June with what remaining options are available. There are some remaining options. In lieu of those, council is placed in the incredibly difficult situation of having to either face significant fines or remove trees that we know have both canopy and biodiversity value and habitat value. We don't want to remove those trees. We want common sense to prevail. This motion is asking us to consider the last remaining options and hopefully positive action by the Minister in this case as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rennie?
Thank you. In my 6.5 years on council, I've heard from the residents of Gladstone Avenue on many occasions desperate to save the trees in their street, which not only add significantly to the urban cooling effect and to biodiversity, but contribute a huge amount of the amenity in that location. The settings that are applying to streets like Gladstone Avenue, as Councillor McCarthy said, are for bushfire zones. That's completely inappropriate. As Council's MAV delegate and representative, I think it's also worth drawing your attention to the fact that this is an issue that other councils are also deeply concerned about. Our neighbours in Boroondara have also advocated and lobbied, as have councils in other areas where tree canopy coverage is highly valued. And I was pleased knowing that this is an issue that our council cares about, to be able to support similar motions at MAV State Council recently. It's my most sincere hope that these efforts by our council and other councils and the collective advocacy of councils will result in some sensible and long overdue change in this area, so that we are not put in this invidious position of having to risk enormous fines or cut down trees that we would rather leave alone.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. Are there any further councillors? Councillor Demetriadis.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank Councillor McCarthy for raising this motion and including the final point 2 in the urgent motion, because I believe it makes the motion more clear and more targeted, particularly when approaching the Minister, because we want the best outcome for all. This matter means a lot for residents of Gladstone Avenue, and we want the best outcome in relation to these trees. Therefore, I believe it is appropriate to write to the Minister to ask that in the next review of the Electricity Safety Act, the consideration be given to inner city settings, which is what Councillor McCarthy also mentioned, where we are trying to maintain tree canopy. There's been a lot of talk recently about recent changes to clearance responsibility, and I just want to clarify that there hasn't been any recent changes to clearance responsibility since the government last reviewed the Electricity Safety Act. The safety requirements were already there. The only changes that were made were that to fine councils if they breach the act, if they don't comply, and that's why I think it's important that we write to the Minister to advocate to have an exemption for urban settings such as Darebin, and because trees are important to our local streetscapes, I think it's important that council also seek to balance amenity and safety, and in the long term work with residents to establish tree canopy management plans to ensure that these circumstances don't arise again. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demetriadis. Are there any further councillors who would like to speak on this item? If not, then I'll have the item put to vote. All those in favour? Councillor Greco, yep. I have, that has been carried unanimously. Thank you. Can we ask for Councillor Hannan to come back into the chamber? Is Councillor Hannan coming back, or has he gone home? Oh. Thank you, Councillor Hannan. I'll go over to the next item, which is actually just for councillors, as there are no confidential reports to be considered this evening. So I will now close tonight's meeting as there are no further businesses to discuss, and I would say that this meeting is now closed at 7:58 p.m. Can I confirm with our officers that the live streaming has stopped?